Yeah, I understand.
So with someone who has like something like that, and you know that makes them uncomfortable, then you're gonna try to not make loud noise, correct? Or would you continue to make loud noise because you never know what could offend somebody?
Loud noise like yelling, or?
Well, what I'm saying is, if somebody expresses that something makes them uncomfortable like that, for example, like you're not just gonna go around screaming around that person, like if you know.
Right.
Okay, so if snapping makes somebody uncomfortable, then you're not gonna want to go around snapping.
Right.
It's tricky. It's so tricky. Like, there are things that I would
I feel
not
like that's
do
so simple.
because they're offensive, and then I would stop doing it. But if it's something a particular person is offended by, for whatever reason they have, first of all, I understand. I just stood here trying to explain to you why it was so hurtful for Arabella. You know? And maybe
Well, you don't know her story.
I'm a white person, and you're thinking, how would he know?
It doesn't have to do with race, Mr.
You know what?
Higgins.
Hey. It might. There's one student in this class who has brought up atrocities against dark people. And you know who that one person is? Arabella. Trust me, it's on her mind. She brings it up. Okay? I'll say it again, there's only one student in this room that has brought up what they've learned in social studies, specifically atrocities against people of color. It was the apartheid in South Africa. She brought it up twice. I know she's very passionate about that. I am too. It was Arabella. So I know she's sensitive to certain things, and it's both. I'll acknowledge that would be seen as aggressive, and it would be offensive to somebody if they took me the wrong way. Then it would be.
This is appalling.
I don't understand why. All I'm showing is compassion for why Arabella could have been hurt.
Okay. There's the thing. There's the could. So I just want to make it very clear that it could have.
There have been people with their hands up, though. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So what she was trying to do is that she was letting you know that she didn't like it when you snapped.
Right.
She was politely letting you know that she did not like it when you snapped.
Right.
And then when you proceeded to explain, and then you snapped every single time.
You mean the I love you?
No, she was gone.
Okay. I proceeded to snap to explain that it. Want to know what I was doing?
You just expressed that they felt uncomfortable when you snapped.
Okay.
You did it over and over and over again.
There's a reason she was uncomfortable with that. Okay. And there's two things that could happen. I could never snap again in front of her, and no one ever on the planet.
You could just respect
excuse me. Let me address what you said. Okay. Why I kept talking and didn't just go, okay, I'll just never snap again. The reason is because I wanted first Arabella to understand that her perception that was a negative, offensive, uncomfortable thing came from a perception. Alice, you mentioned like the intention doesn't matter. Certain things like the N-word, the intention doesn't matter. You just don't do it. If you're really sensitive to loud sounds, I just wouldn't do it. Like if you had some sort of air conditioner.
And if you're sensitive to
I
snapping,
wouldn't make real loud because that's startling to almost anybody. But little snaps.
Those are not little snaps.
If a teacher just doing a snap, that's where, and I know some of you understand, some of you know, like, you don't have any problem with a teacher snapping. Some of you do. Understand why you do them. Why is it such a big deal for a teacher to go, here, let me get your attention? I mean, really, think about it. I love you all. What's the big deal about me going, angels, please look this way? Think about that.
is that what you do?
It seems
Yeah.
incredibly demanding.
Oh.
It's not.
Trust me. You want to know what I really think about you all? I know
Oh my God.
these. Yeah, whether you believe me, that depends on your perception of what I'm saying. That's the effective filter I mentioned. Okay, I could say something, and how it can be perceived is up to you. But pay attention to how I mean it. That's very important. Okay.
We're not saying that you should like stop snapping is all, but like you made her like she's crying and she just like left the classroom. So we're not saying that you have to completely stop snapping, and because it's a habit that you have, obviously, because you do it quite a lot. But it's like maybe if you could just like catch yourself and like maybe think about her side of the story.
I will definitely think, and I won't do it anymore because of, I can see, I don't think Arabella's ready to discover the difference between people that are snapping in a mean way and people that are snapping just to get their attention because they care about you. Well, I don't want to teach you all. Can you put the phone down?
I can't have this on video?
I don't want you to, well, you can video it, but
Okay.
as long as, yeah. Who's had their hand up for a while?
Stephen.
I feel like if you do something and it like goes to the point of like making somebody cry or something like that, you shouldn't really do that anymore.
Yeah, I said I wasn't going to.
Alright.
Right. But I think a lot of you were wondering, why was I even talking as she was crying? The whole time, I was trying to let the class know that when I was doing this, it wasn't like, mean, rah, do this, I don't like you. It was, please, I care about your education, let's look this way. That's a whole different perception. You know what I mean? And you could see things any way you want. You could see me going like this as, I love you, please look this way. Or you could see it as just some way that makes you really uncomfortable, okay? And I want to teach you to be strong, you know? If you are really offended by people who skip, I don't want to teach you to just be offended your whole life by people who skip. I want you to understand, okay, when is skipping, maybe not a great example. Sometimes skipping might be offensive, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes snapping is offensive. Sometimes it's not. So to assume that I mean something negative, there's a word for when people assume something negative in others. What's that word when we assume something negative in others? Okay. Well, I won't say it because it's a powerful word, and I sense there's a lot of you don't understand what I'm saying, and you're videoing it because you think it's this terrible, atrocious thing.
I
maybe,
just want to have the
I don't know,
conversation recorded.
maybe now you've seen what I've been saying, but earlier there was like, oh, I can't believe this is happening from you. Wait, yeah. Jason.
Oh.
Yeah, like it takes time to get used to things. Okay, so
That is so.
she was definitely not comfortable with you snapping at her, and you said that she should like something get used to it. Well, it takes time to get used to it.
I didn't just say get used to it.
You
So-
said it takes.
I acknowledged and understood from a place of compassion why that would be uncomfortable for someone. Okay.
But why didn't you stop snapping when she asked you to?
I felt it very necessary for her to know that when I was snapping, it was coming from a place of love, not the way she took it. Because love will never make you uncomfortable. Love will never make you uncomfortable. If you think, though, someone's snapping at you because they have some sort of negative feeling, you're going to see it negatively.
Why didn't you respect the fact that she was uncomfortable?
She asked you.
I did. So much, I stopped class and I tried to...
You kept
So
snapping.
many times. You kept snapping at her.
I wasn't snapping at her.
Yes, you.
No, I never snapped at her once. She said that. Oh, you mean the I love you?
Oh my god, she wasn't.
Did I say R?
She was out.
You know how like some people think when you point at someone to get their attention, that's like disrespectful. This could be disrespectful.
I feel like it makes
Because
me a
some
little
people think that way.
uncomfortable.
It's so,
It could be.
demanding.
It could be.
It's
You're
so,
right.
like you should stop.
Well, hold on. It could be.
And she respected
If I was
I
doing that
take
from
it
a
as rude.
if I was doing that from a negative place, if I was doing that from a negative place, yeah, I should stop talking right now and just never do it again. But if I'm doing something from a loving place, then it's not about the person who's doing something loving and being misinterpreted to stop. It's about the people that are misinterpreting that to understand why they are and to not be so offended by it. Because otherwise, trust me, I know a lot about this, you'll go through your life reacting and being offended by a lot of things.
I have a
Trust me,
question.
I know a lot about that.
Mr. Higgins, I have a question.
Yeah, we should probably have some class time. George, take it.
So you brought up the very extreme about race. You said because, basically, I'm summarizing your words, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
You said because I'm white is why she's more mad about this. And you were talking about like how all this stuff and about how like race is like really on her mind and all this stuff and how she was talking about things in class. And like obviously that's on a lot of people in this class's mind, but
Yeah.
just because like if she was a white student, then you would not be bringing up the extreme of race. You would not bring since like, you're a white teacher, like this is making you uncomfortable. Like, and then also I'm just curious, why did you go into the extreme of talking about groups of people of color and groups of white people, like making
Um,
like the difference of being uncomfortable about somebody snapping.
Arbella brought up the N-word example, and that's why I felt I had to go to that extreme.
What does that have to do with this?
Well, she brought up the N-word, so that kind of brought the conversation
she
to
bring
something
that
pretty
up?
extreme. But hey, I was just making a compassionate hypothesis. Maybe because of history and how white people have acted towards dark people.
Maybe it could be something
Maybe,
else.
and because in my history of teaching, I've noticed, I've seen it working in the community with people that are people of color, not white. They have a different experience. And I'm talking to, of course, the people of color here know this. I'm aware of it just because I have extreme compassion for these people. Okay? I don't say these people. Extreme compassion for all people, especially those that have had to deal with, I'm not going to cuss, with prejudice. It's wrong, it's terrible, and I completely understand how someone could be offended by that and feel uncomfortable. But that aside, I also want us to be able to know when that would be offensive if it came from someone who meant it meanly, like another teacher, but if someone does it with love, then maybe it's time to reprogram the brain so that does, and I've had to do it too. I have to reprogram my brain so the things that occurred when I was younger that traumatized me, I've had to just look at the world differently and not expect everybody who did that is there and feel uncomfortable about everybody. Rachel? Are you going somewhere?
Yeah.
Can I ask you where you're going? Great. It's a hard, why are we talking? Yeah, this is hard, folks. This is the first time I've had to go this much on the defense. I've always marched for people of color. I don't have my loudspeaker with me, my megaphone, but I am the person who is writing and shouting for people that are on the other end of prejudice.
We're not talking
It
about
does.
race.
It has everything to do with it. There is a connection because I'm being labeled here as
Why do we
not
still need to-
compassionate. I should have just listened to her.
Nobody said that though. Nobody
Well,
said that you were.
I'm being told that I should have
Nobody
just
said that you were.
shut my mouth and just never snapped anyone.
No.
Just never snap when
We
you
Just
never
be
snap.
respectful when you be
Respect other
mindful of
people's
when you
decisions.
snap around somebody who that is making
Which
uncomfortable.
I'm doing.
You could just call
But-
her name, that gets her attention. Simple as that. You could just say Arabella. You don't have to go.
Arabella, please pay
Arabella.
attention.
Well, I wouldn't do that because the way you went, like with the book.
That
That's very
happens.
mean.
That
does
happens.
happen.
Then let me know if you
Okay.
feel like if I'm not being heart-centered. Let me know.
Okay, and that's what she
Let
did.
you know. That's what she just did.
I reflected. Well, okay. Can we remind me? I thought I just snapped for here, right? And that's what made Arbella uncomfortable.
This has happened like 30 times today.
Okay. Did I
It's not
snap toward the back table today?
But maybe the action was not even at her made her uncomfortable. Maybe
Right.
just the action in general.
Well, I was also just told just don't snap at her, but I didn't. She was uncomfortable from how I snapped at someone else.
Yeah, don't.
So I think we all need to know I care about you and I care about Arabella. And that's why immediately I was like, Angel, I did not mean it like that. I know you took it that way. And let me try to tell you how much I understand that. And I went into the race topic. And I want Arabella and all of you to be strong and not be uncomfortable around every little thing. Be uncomfortable around lack of love. But if you're uncomfortable when someone is expressing love their own way, or just has a certain mannerism that is their thing, then look at yourself and go, why am I really so bothered by a sound wave produced by a finger hitting a palm?
But what if that's a trigger for her? Like
But-
we
right,
don't know
but
the
why?
story.
And I had to look at myself too.
It doesn't matter what it doesn't. It's how you feel when that happens. Like it doesn't matter if it was with love or with hate or like with whatever. And in your case, like you're saying, it was a loving snap, but like she didn't feel that way, and she
Right,
asked you to
she
stop.
didn't. And I spent quite a while trying to explain to her in the class.
That doesn't change anything.
I don't see how it couldn't help if I say that I meant it from love.
She just doesn't want you to do it.
Okay.
Can you just respect that? It's so simple.
Life is not that
Because like
simple.
when I had another teacher,
Well,
he was
we're not
cussing
talking about
classrooms,
life.
so uncomfortable, he stops cussing.
We're talking about.
Well, I numerous times I said I would stop doing that for Arabella. Because that's my only choice in this case. I do have to stop doing that. I was hoping we could all understand, including Arabella, that I mean it from love. It's not a big deal. Let's move on. But clearly that's not going to happen in this class. So in this class is very triggered. I'm going to just change my mind. I won't snap in, let's write this down, in this class anymore, because this class is not understanding that this is not a bad thing.
We don't think it's a bad thing.
Well, if you're uncomfortable by it, that's what I mean by that. If you feel uncomfortable by it, then that's not love. That's something like me. I thought I heard my name.
Yeah. Oh, you could just ask like before you do it, just ask that person, are you okay with me snapping to get your attention? Like you always ask before you snap.
So my
Like, are you comfortable with me going, hey, like get your attention, or are you comfortable with me saying your name or pointing to you?
wow, that's tough. What if someone's offended by skipping? Should I not skip?
I mean,
No, I won't.
You're not skipping
Because-
at them. No, you're not skipping at them. You're just skipping. Because you're snapping towards the person to get their attention. They don't like
But
that.
I wasn't over here.
Yeah, but that's another person. She probably doesn't like when you do that to other people.
Right.
It's like she feels for them.
Okay. Okay, just understand this, everybody. Perceptions are hard to change. Okay? And instead of just making everybody around you stop doing everything they're doing that's offending you, here's a better idea. Here's a better idea. Discern what is actually coming from a bad place and speak up. And for those that are coming from a good place, but you're taking it offensively, know thyself. There's a saying, know thyself. Know what you're offended by. Know your triggers. So that all being said, I honor how she was uncomfortable. I tried to explain to you with my history of fighting for equality that I understand how anybody would be offended by, more so than others, a white guy doing something bad.
Oh,
You know what?
my God.
Race doesn't have
It
anything to
does.
do with it.
Literally.
But you being a white guy doesn't have nothing to do with you
Let me
snapping,
say this
though.
again, and as you take classes, you'll understand. And some of you, people of color, already know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me say this again. If you have a group of white people, okay, and a group of people of color, the same people that have been hurt so much in the past, they are more likely to be hurt because they've been hurt and they're protecting themselves. Why are people leaving the class?
Because nobody's comfortable right now.
Race.
Oh my God. But why leave?
Because you're not listening.
Okay, let's move on. I'm trying to go and explain something that's too diverse and complicated to just like, oh, okay, I get it, let's move on. I feel like the impression received based on people going to talk to other teachers is not a positive one.
That is
It's not positive. People having to leave the room when I'm trying to express love.
well, they're taking a break so they don't blow up in the classroom.
A break from a teacher expressing love, I just can't understand that.
If you were
It's not
expressing
love,
love,
you're talking about race,
people are
though.
saying.
With only love, I understood how it could be purified.
You know what would help?
You understand, but you're not
Stop
actually
snapping.
showing us. So if you
How would I show it other than saying I wouldn't? Before I said I wasn't going to snap at her, I don't remember doing that. And then I went to I just want to snap in this class at all. That seems like I'm being very thoughtful of what people are. But I'm still, because I care for you, going to go. I'll stop snapping, but just be aware of just think about why is that so offensive that I would be snapping.
In the future, can
Really?
we maybe please not
But-
bring up race
or-
when it's not
Right, when
relevant?
it's not relevant, like at this moment.
Let me-
it's
let
And
me-
I know
Let me
we
quote-
disagree.
Let
Hold
me
on.
quote Julie Palmer. Julie Palmer on our campus. She's a strong black female. She heads. What's her title? She's almost like above Step Up. She's awesome. She said, you know what? For someone who's a person of color, it's always about race, because they live a whole different life. People that are white are less likely to know what the heck I'm talking about. But people of color, and maybe not yet, if you haven't experienced this and you're a person of color, wow, good. But we have a president who is not kind. He's not a kind white person. That doesn't help. That makes it worse. And honestly, that's why there's a lot of like emotions coming up, like the Me Too movement where women spoke up. I love it. The LGBT plus community has spoken up. I love that. And well, it turned into something else. She brought up the N-word, and I had to explain.
When did she bring up the N-word?
When did she bring it up though?
Remember, she said something.
Wait, what did she say?
I don't remember her exact sentence.
So.
Oh, she was saying what's like guaranteed offensive. She said, would you just not stop doing that if it was offensive to someone?
There was an example. Maybe it wasn't the best example.
But there was no reason to keep it going.
This information I'm sharing is so ridiculously important to understand. That's why I'm still talking. Maybe some of you understand what I'm saying and are like, let's move on. But this is so important for all like humans, especially many adults, to get. So that's what I was saying. Okay, I won't snap anymore at all. If there's anything I do that's kind of like a normal thing, but you feel uncomfortable, let me know.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay? Because there's two things that have got to happen. I've got to understand that it makes you uncomfortable, like I understand that it made Arbella uncomfortable. And if it's something normal, like maybe, I don't know, like maybe I do this or something, and it really bothers someone, because it's weird, like a teacher dancing, it's like, just stop. If it's something like that, then I will also ask the person to understand why would that be offensive? Look within. And then if you do and learn, you'll never be offended by that again.
Okay, also let's not assume that it goes to race. Just because she's black doesn't mean that it has to go to race.
True. But this is not just, this is what every professor of African American studies and every civil rights leader I've heard has taught me. What I've learned as an adult is to understand that people that are not white have a different experience in this world.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe it didn't apply to Arbella today.
Okay.
Maybe it didn't. But given the conversations that I've had with Arbella about extreme brutality from white people. Okay, but given that she happened to be the one student in all my classes that is the most sensitive to the brutality of white people, I'm not surprised she was the one that reacted the most emotional when a white person did something that is pretty aggressive, especially when a mean teacher does it.
So you're saying if you were a teacher of color, she wouldn't react the same?
No, well, I don't know how much of that did have to do with race. But I was saying maybe. I was showing compassion, and that's why I kind of brought it up. I wanted you all to understand. I understand how we could be sensitive, especially people of color, for a whole different reason.
Okay, I understand, but also that is a maybe, and I don't feel like this conversation, that could be a whole maybe. There's a billion trillion maybes that could have happened.
Again, Arbella brought up the N-word and something else, and so I had to address that, and that turned it into a little bit of a broader conversation. I did, because if I ignored what she said and let her think that, I think it's okay for someone to say the N-word, that had to be addressed.
But that's not what we were talking about.
Well, what she said I had to address. I'm just letting you know. Okay? I didn't have to make it about race, but it became about race when she said it.
Okay.
You just figure out a different way to get our attention. That's all.
It goes both ways. I have to understand that is offensive to people, but at the same time, those that are offended could look within and go, why would that be offensive? I mean, really think about it. Not just go, it's offensive, period. Just don't talk to me. I'm saying it's offensive, so just shut up.
I mean, Mr. Higgins, who likes being snapped at?
No. What's a hand up? Yeah.
If I snap at you,
You could have just been more mature in this situation and just acknowledged that she didn't want you to snap. You could have just not snapped during this class period and then moved on, and we could have done the lab that you so wanted us to do.
Oh, this conversation is more important than the lab.
You could have acknowledged the situation and then moved on.
I acknowledge the situation. And based on the reaction from this class, people needing to walk out and being so emotional and crying, I had to keep going. With the students crying, I'm not going to go, okay, moving on with my students crying. I had to explain some things. Okay? What's that?
You just have to keep going. Can we just do the lab? Is it that hard?
Can we get time next class?
Of course. No. This is important. Let's not regret this conversation. This is an important conversation to have. If you still feel offended, if you still feel I don't have understanding for what Arabella did, then I don't know what to say. Because at this point, I'll just be repeating myself. Okay. If you knew my heart, everybody, if everyone in this class really knew my heart, I could do a lot more than snapping and have no problem with it. I walked in on Mr. Reardon's class. He teaches in here too. He is brutal. He'll be literally picking on the kids, like in their face, and I'm like, okay. Michael, don't they complain? In fact, one student was complaining, and I'm like, you better be careful with that, because that could be really taken offensively. And it's a second year teaching. He kind of laughed it off. But yeah, I mean, I'm very careful, more careful than other teachers. Some teachers will be like in your face and not care. All right. Here, I care that this was taken aggressively, and I understand how it would be. I do. We've all had some jerk maybe go like that at us. Maybe not everybody. Okay. All right, moving on. All right. Important talk.